Canada's efforts to diversify its trade have been increasingly evident, particularly during Trade Minister Mary A's recent visit to the European Union. During her visit, she reaffirmed Canada's dedication to reducing reliance on the United States, especially in light of rising trade tensions and new tariffs. The country is actively expanding its global partnerships, with a focus on the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, with the EU, which has already boosted trade by more than 65% since its implementation. Minister A's discussions centered on critical minerals, energy, and technology exports, reinforcing Canada's role as a vital European supplier. Beyond Europe, Canada is shifting its energy exports to Asia, especially Japan and China, to reduce its dependence on the United States as the main buyer of Canadian oil. Historically, 97% of Canadian crude oil was exported to the U.S., but recent agreements with Japan and China signal a strategic shift towards energy market diversification. At the same time, Canada is strengthening its trade relations with countries in the Indo-Pacific region, including Indonesia and South Korea, through the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, securing access to rapidly growing economies. This diversification strategy not only protects Canada from potential future U.S. tariffs, but also strengthens its economic resilience and global competitiveness. Minister Mary's visit to the EU highlights Canada's long-term commitment to enhancing international trade ties and ensuring sustainable growth beyond its traditional reliance on the U.S. In recent years, trade between Canada and the European Union has flourished, particularly since the provisional implementation of CETA in 2017. In 2021, two-way merchandise trade reached a record high of $100 billion, marking a 33.7% increase from 2016 levels, far surpassing the 18.6% overall increase in Canadian merchandise trade during the same period. Canadian exports to the EU grew by 46.4%, while imports rose by 28.4%. Additionally, more Canadian businesses are exporting to the EU, with the number of companies involved in trade growing from 7,753 in 2016 to 8,291 in 2019, with small and medium-sized enterprises (SMEs) being the primary contributors. Despite these positive trends, there remains untapped potential in CETA's provisions. In 2020, only 57% of eligible exports utilized CETA's preferential treatment, suggesting an opportunity to increase awareness and support for businesses to fully benefit from the agreement. Minister has emphasized the importance of maximizing CETA's potential, particularly for SMEs, by assisting businesses in navigating export procedures and reducing bureaucratic barriers. This approach aims to make European markets more accessible and promote mutual economic growth. Recognizing that 98% of Canadian businesses are SMEs, Minister Mary has also highlighted the importance of supporting these businesses as they explore international markets. In response, several initiatives have been launched, including the Can Export SMEs program, which provides financial assistance of up to $75,000 to help small businesses access new international markets. The program adapted to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic by focusing on areas such as e-commerce, digital strategies, and virtual trade events, ensuring that SMEs could maintain global connections despite travel restrictions. In February 2024, Canada and the EU concluded negotiations on new rules to facilitate SMEs' access to investment dispute resolution under CETA. This development improves SMEs' ability to take advantage of CETA's opportunities by providing a clearer path for resolving investment-related disputes. Additionally, progress has been made on a mutual recognition agreement for professional qualifications, particularly for architects, which will streamline the process of recognizing professional credentials between Canada and the EU, benefiting both professionals and small businesses. On the critical minerals front, Canada and the EU have strengthened their collaboration to secure essential resources for green technologies, such as electric vehicles and wind turbines. This partnership aims to diversify supply chains and reduce dependence on non-allied nations. In 2021, Canada and the EU established the Strategic Partnership on Raw Materials to enhance cooperation in the raw materials sector, with a focus on research and development for critical mineral extraction, processing, and recycling, all while adhering to high environmental, social, and governance (ESG) standards. Canada's critical minerals strategy has identified 31 minerals essential for the green and digital economy, crucial for clean energy technologies, electric vehicle batteries, and advanced industries. Supported by nearly $4 billion in the 2022 federal budget, the strategy includes plans for sustainable mining practices, such as low-carbon mining processes, electrification of mining equipment, and carbon capture technologies. By prioritizing sustainability, Canada aims to position itself as a leading, responsible producer of critical minerals. A key aspect of the strategy involves engaging Indigenous communities, as many of Canada's critical mineral deposits are located on or near Indigenous lands. The government is working with Indigenous communities to ensure they benefit from mining projects through revenue-sharing agreements, job creation, and skills training. Projects will also comply with free, prior, and informed consent under the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The strategy also highlights the potential for economic growth, with projections suggesting that the critical minerals sector could create thousands of new jobs and attract significant investment. Regions rich in these minerals, such as Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and the Northwest Territories, are expected to see increased mining activity and infrastructure development. Canada is also seeking to strengthen international partnerships, particularly with the EU and the US, to establish secure, diversified supply chains for critical minerals. Through investments in innovation, sustainability, and Indigenous partnerships, Canada aims to solidify its position as a reliable, ethical, and competitive supplier of critical minerals on the global stage. The critical minerals strategy is not only essential for Canada's economic future, but also plays a pivotal role in advancing the global clean energy transition and digital transformation. During her recent visit to Brussels, Canada's Trade Minister Mary met with EU Trade Commissioner Maros Šefčovič to explore deeper collaboration on critical minerals and green technologies, and they recognized the need to strengthen supply chains between Canada and the EU. Canada has been actively working to diversify its trade relationships and address internal barriers to promote economic resilience and reduce reliance on the United States. In 2018, Canada set an ambitious target to increase non-US exports by 50% by 2025. As of early 2025, the country is on track to meet or surpass this goal, signaling Canada's commitment to expanding partnerships beyond North America. Additionally, Canada has been engaging with Southeast Asian nations, sending trade delegations to the region to secure new opportunities. These efforts are part of a broader strategy to reduce Canada's economic reliance on the US. Pause for a moment. We also appreciate your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's continue. Recognizing the impact of internal trade barriers, Canada's Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, Anita Anand, along with her provincial and territorial counterparts, has been discussing transformative actions to eliminate regulatory obstacles that hinder the free movement of goods, services, and labor across Canada. The goal is to unlock new market opportunities, attract investment, and stimulate economic growth by fostering a more integrated national market. A significant 88% of small businesses in Canada believe that removing internal trade barriers should be a top priority. These barriers often prevent businesses from expanding into new domestic markets due to complex provincial regulations. In response, the federal government has outlined a comprehensive strategy in the Federal Action Plan to strengthen internal trade, highlighting the importance of the free flow of goods and services in economic recovery. Why is Canada accelerating trade with non-US partners? In late 2024, US President-elect Donald Trump suggested at a dinner with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that Canada should consider becoming the 51st state of the US, claiming that Canadians would benefit from lower taxes and better health care. The comment was initially met with nervous laughter, but Trump continued to raise the idea publicly, even referring to Trudeau as Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada in a social media post. By mid-December 2024, Trump argued that many Canadians supported the idea, although no evidence was provided. In early January 2025, Trump escalated his rhetoric, threatening a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports unless Canada improved its border security. He also questioned the US financial support for Canada, suggesting that if the US is subsidizing Canada by nearly $300 billion, Canada should consider joining the US. Prime Minister Trudeau firmly rejected the notion of annexation, stating on January 7, 2025, that there was no chance in hell that Canada would join the US. Despite this, Trump persisted, even posting on Christmas Day 2024 that Canadian taxes would be reduced by over 60% and that businesses would double in size if Canada became part of the US. On February 1, 2025, Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods, effective February 4, 2025. The following day, he reiterated his annexation stance on Truth Social, promising no tariffs and military security if Canada became the 51st state. In response, Canada retaliated with 25% tariffs on $155 billion worth of US imports. However, after talks between Trudeau and Trump, both nations agreed to a 30-day pause on tariff enforcement. Why does the US care about Canada? The United States has long relied on Canada's vast natural resources. Trump's recent remarks have raised concerns about whether the U.S. might seek more control over Canada's resources. Canada plays a crucial role as a global energy supplier, ranking as the fourth largest producer of crude oil, and 97% of Canadian oil exports go to the U.S. Alberta's oil sands dominate production, making Canada an integral part of the U.S. energy supply chain. Canada is also the fifth largest producer of natural gas, with most exports heading to the U.S. In addition, Canada is a major global player in mining, ranking among the top producers of nickel, aluminum, and gold. The country's uranium production is significant, supplying about 15% of the world's demand. Hydroelectric power also plays a large role, with Canada exporting over 50 terawatt-hours of electricity to the U.S. in 2022. The forestry industry, along with other resources such as poached fertilizer and diamonds, further cements Canada's importance to the U.S. economy. Trump's push for greater control over Canadian resources could be a strategic move to ensure resource security while benefiting the Canadian economy. However, Prime Minister Trudeau has firmly rejected any notion of annexation, emphasizing Canada's sovereignty. Despite these tensions, the U.S. remains Canada's top trade partner, and the two countries' economies are deeply intertwined. The imposition of trade tariffs by the U.S. has sparked a shift in global trade, with allied nations seeking to diversify their economic relationships. A shift toward trade diversification, the U.S.'s use of tariffs has led to a realignment of global trade policies. Countries that were once heavily dependent on the U.S. market, such as Canada, the EU, Japan, and South Korea, are now pursuing free trade agreements, FTAs, with other economies. Canada, for instance, has strengthened its ties with the EU through the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, and is also expanding its reach through the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. Similarly, Japan and South Korea are accelerating trade agreements with the EU and other economic blocs. By diversifying their trade partners, these nations aim to reduce their exposure to U.S. tariffs and ensure long-term economic stability. This diversification could weaken the U.S.'s economic influence, especially as its allies develop stronger ties with new trading partners. This shift will ultimately benefit countries by opening up new markets, ensuring access to critical resources, and reducing dependence on the U.S. The U.S. risks losing economic influence. By pushing its allies to seek alternative trade partners, the U.S. risks diminishing its own economic influence. As countries establish new long-term agreements, American businesses may face increased competition and struggle to maintain their market share. Consumers in the U.S. may also bear the brunt of trade disruptions, with higher prices and reduced availability of goods. While tariffs were initially intended to protect domestic industries, they have sparked a realignment of global trade that could lead to economic isolation for the U.S. In the long term, countries like Canada, the EU, and others will benefit from diversified trade relationships, while the U.S. may face higher consumer prices, inflation, and decreased global competitiveness. If this trend continues, the U.S. could find itself losing its position as the dominant economic force, as former allies forge new trade relationships and reduce their dependency on U.S. markets. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That's all for today's video. We appreciate you joining us. If you found the content insightful, please give us a like and subscribe to stay connected. Your support means a lot to us. Don't forget to check out another video from our channel, now on screen.